Hi, this is Steve Sabadusky, and we are hanging out with Stephen Waguespack of Louisiana Association Business and Industry Lobby. Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Couldn't be better. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. So, how does it feel being in the chair of Dan Juneau of Lobby? Definitely a difficult chair to fill.
Yeah, look, anytime you sit anywhere where the previous person was there for 27 years, had a great record, great reputation, was part of just countless monumental battles and victories and hard-fought wins, and he's got a great record. He's a great guy, and so obviously there's a burden there and there's an expectation there, but the other side of it is he's left a great foundation here, and it's a good opportunity for me to try to build upon that and enhance what he did there. But he's been a great resource for me since the second I've been here, and I'm very privileged and thankful.
Absolutely. Now, I'd be crucified if I didn't ask you a couple questions real quick about your experience with the general
Sure.
administration. What was that like? I mean, yeah, I'm sure I certainly would like to know what's it like, being the council and chief of staff, and I mean, that experience must have been absolutely awesome.
Oh, it's fantastic. I loved every second of it, to be honest with you. If you grow up in this state, if you care about this state, if you've seen the ups and downs of this state, and you find yourself in a position to where you can work in administration that's that has a robust agenda, for a guy like me, it was awesome. I loved every day of it. Now it was 24/7, and it never turned
Right.
off, and it wasn't always easy, but a great learning experience. I was able to meet a ton of great people, be involved in some pretty intense policy discussions, which I'm kind of a policy guy at heart, so I just enjoyed it all. I love it. No regrets at all.
Okay, so how are you going to use that experience in terms of this particular job? I mean, this is a major job, basically, as far as I'm concerned, at least, being the spokesperson for an organization that's a spokesperson, a spokes organization for the business community in Louisiana.
Well,
So how would you, in terms of that experience? Yeah.
sure, yeah. Yeah, I think anyone, anytime they take a new job, uses their past experiences to help it, shape them, influence them to build their character and all that. So I'm no different than anyone else on that front. I would say one thing I've learned is anytime you're talking about policies, you have to find a way to explain them in a way that relates to everyone. People that naturally agree with you, people that naturally disagree with you, and everyone in between who's not sure what those issues are. A lot of times we talk over people's heads. Your average person out there, they'll read the paper every now and then, they'll skim articles, but they're more focused on their families, their jobs, and all those things. Those of us that are in the weeds of this stuff, we think everyone's, paying attention to all this stuff. They're not. And so when we explain a lobby position, a pro-business position, we got to explain not just why it makes sense to us and our members, but why should your average person care and nod their head and understand why it's good for the state. I mean, I feel like our agenda is good for the state. It's going to grow our economy. It's going to promote investment. I want to explain it to people in a way that they can understand it and rally behind it. And I think when you're in an administration, one thing that you're always pushing policies, you're always having to convince people to be with you and to explain your situation in different ways to different groups. I think that was a good learning experience for me, and I hope to replicate it here in some sense.
Now, a lot of people, at least some people, I should say, are concerned that there is going to be too close of a connection, and obviously you don't think it will be. So if you can just respond to that in
Yeah,
terms of, yeah, your experience with the general administration.
sure. Yeah, no, I don't see that as an issue negative. I see it as only a positive. I mean,
Okay.
and here's why: because I've had privilege to be experienced in state government. I've done state lobbying. I've worked in federal government on Congress, and I've lobbied in Congress in D.C. And so, I've been lucky in my career thus far, and I've been able to have a lot of varied experiences that I think are the perfect balance for this type of job. I mean,
Okay, so, yeah.
well, let me just say the issues facing our small business owners and our large business owners in our coalition. Sometimes they come from the state, sometimes they come from the feds, sometimes they're government driven, sometimes they're market driven. I think kind of my mix of background will be a good asset, and it'll help me to understand where they're coming from and maybe which direction to go to try to help solve their problem.